Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today, we're going to be talking a bit more about the Bad Batch. The main topic, which we'll come onto in just a bit, concerns the terrifying truth about Palpatine's vault on Tantiss and his use of M-count children. But let's begin with Tantiss speculation. In my full episode breakdown of episode 14 Flash Strike, I spoke about the possibility in the final episode of the Zillo Beast wreaking havoc on Tantiss. But one theory suggests even if this is true, the entirety of Tantiss base is not going to be destroyed, because some believe the reason Disney canonized the expanded universe world in the first place was to connect it to Thrawn, just like in Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. There might even be a post-credit scene where Thrawn arrives, years after what's about to happen. The mess is cleared up, and the storehouse is repurposed. And one factor which might indicate a Thrawn appearance at the end of the show is that 3 days after episode 15, Thrawn is confirmed to appear in Tales of the Empire, and they've already made a Clone Wars style design for the Chiss, which is vastly different to how he looks in Star Wars Rebels. And this is far from the first time that I've suggested Dave Filoni is creating a more cohesive, interconnected timeline, which has ramifications for the time period Ahsoka Season 2 is going to deal with. So Tantiss and its neighbouring mountain could be coming to live action in Filoni's movie or Ahsoka Season 2, and be a big part of the war between Thrawn, who is back in the known galaxy, and the New Republic. So moving on, my dear friends, a few days ago, I made a video theorizing that if any member of the Batch is going to die, I think it's going to be Echo. Well, did you notice? The white of his stormtrooper disguise makes him visually reminiscent of Fives when he died. The white suit aesthetic has led some fans to think they're setting up a poetic, tragic, and possibly heroic death. Is the final legacy of Domino Squad coming to a close? But now, my dear friends, on to our main topic. The Bad Batch is really showcasing some of the more sinister elements of Palpatine's cloning projects, and when it comes to using children who are Force sensitive, or simply have the high M count he's after, he's been doing this since the Clone Wars Season 2. But now as the Emperor of the Galaxy, enacting Project Necromancer is a bit different. He has endless resources and all the funding he wants, with psychopathic doctors working for him and helping him achieve his goals. But anytime we're talking about Palpatine and cloning, we have to look at what he adopted from his master Darth Plagueis, an obsession with immortality and preparing for an eventual life essence transfer to a host. But have you ever wondered why Palpatine uses children? Hemlock said it was because very few high M-count adults are left, following Order 66. But did you know in Darth Plagueis, the now Legends book I still consider my headcanon, Palpatine took the advice and methodology from his master? I want to draw your attention to some of Plagueis' words and experiments. And from this you'll see how Palpatine, in a very sick way, copied his master and followed in those footsteps. Plagueis told young Sheev, "There is an allure about the manipulation of the innocent, the fear the Sith instill in them." To Plagueis, innocence was weakness, and there was a satisfaction that came with the pain he imposed on life forms who'd been stripped of their freedom. This is part of the psychopathy that Palpatine possessed. Here's the quote from James Luceno. Plagueis said this: "I began with experiments on scurriers and other small creatures. I used my will, amplified through my body's own midichlorians, to override the lesser concentrated midichlorian voices of the test subjects. But this proved more challenging than I predicted. Because midichlorians are linked by universal mind, the ones in my own cells seemed to resist this imposition upon their fellows. But eventually, I succeeded. First with small creatures, then with servants and slaves purchased from the huts. I forced midichlorians to override their natural life cycles to my whim. Just like his apprentice Palpatine, Plagueis used his energy and understanding of the dark side of the Force as justification to use those who he considered innocent as test subjects. And this is reflected through some of the doctors on Tantiss, like Dr. Skolda. She doesn't call the kids by their first names, but instead their specimen numbers. And everything is very robotic, mechanical, and systematic. When the kids were trying to buy Omega time, they faked genuine medical symptoms. And if the doctors cared about them and saw them as human beings, or should I say sentients, she would have sympathized. But instead, she is extremely dismissive, telling one of them their hunger pangs are going to subside, and just performing a run-of-the-mill diagnostics test. and anything that would require the minimum humanization is such a chore. The kids just want to go home, but they're treated as Imperial property, and once their purpose has been served, I'm sure if Omega didn't have an escape plan, they'd be terminated. Now we might be talking about the Bad Batch, but we need to consider the expansion of Palpatine's projects across various worlds. Palpatine as the Emperor, who enacted the Sith plan, had resources Plagueis didn't. The 4th episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi in 2022 brought the battered Jedi Knight to the moon of Nur, Fortress Inquisitorius, and while there, the former master of Anakin Skywalker turned Darth Vader made a bone-chilling discovery. The Inquisitors don't just kill their Force-sensitive targets, they entombed them, the dead bodies, in an amber-like stasis. And Palpatine didn't just have children, but also Order 66 captives as sick trophies, which in theory, he could draw DNA from. And just like the younglings in the vault, the museum exhibit stands out as a cruel testament and sadistic methods employed by the Empire. Jedi were either to be eradicated or used, or both. It was all about galactic domination. Now even though all of the kids in the vault are not necessarily Jedi younglings or even know they have the Force, they're unaware of their M counts or even why they're there, but Palpatine was paranoid, and if he had it his way, he would control every Force sensitive in the galaxy. And did you know he went to great lengths to ensure every Force sensitive kid was captured? There is a very interesting book series by Jason Fry, Star Wars Rebels, Servants of the Empire. Palpatine envisioned a spy network of Force sensitives like the Inquisitors, and there was speculation Palpatine intended to replace Vader. Palpatine intended to turn the Force-sensitive children into agents of the dark side, all while trying to prevent the Jedi Order from coming back. But returning to the vault, what was most important to Palpatine was having a contingency. And this is why Omega is so important. She's the golden goose. Not because she possesses a high midichlorian count, but because she can house one. She is the template Palpatine's been after, but it's gonna fall through. It's gonna take decades before the Imperial Remnant, after the Empire's fall, succeeds. But the fact she is a clone reinforces Palpatine's ideas about what is property and how innocent life, in the mind of the Sith, isn't granted personhood. It truly demonstrates the psychopathy of Sheev. But something even more interesting is that Palpatine didn't see any of this as an abomination, it was a gift. Here is an appropriate quote from Darth Plagueis. Now he understood. Tenebrous had been wrong about sorcery, as he had been wrong about so many things. Yes, the gift was strongest in those who with scant effort could allow themselves to be subsumed by the currents of the Force and become conduits for the powers of the dark side. But there was an alternative path to those abilities, and it led from a place where the circle closed on itself and sheer will substituted for selflessness. Plagueis understood there were no powers beyond his reach, none he could master through an effort of will. And what you need to understand about both Plagueis and Palpatine is that their philosophy was insular. Knowing that this was their priority, you begin to learn why Palpatine was so selfish, and why it didn't matter to use the lives of others as a means to an end. And even Plagueis himself learnt this from his master. It was known as the Tenebrous Way, amassing of personal political power away from any and all pursuits deemed inconvenient for the Sith. The ultimate, one singular goal, mastery over life and death. For this is the true secret of the dark side of the Force.